Hello. I wonder what makes you weep. I'm just going to play to you a very short excerpt from the theme tune from the film Schindler's List. This piece of music often makes me weep. Haunting piece of music, a beautiful piece of music, and yet a piece of music which, as I said, often makes me weep. Our current world is currently living through a time of tragedy. Many are grieving the loss of a loved one. Maybe that's you. Maybe you're grieving the loss of a livelihood like so many around our world. Maybe you're struggling with the pain of isolation and loneliness. Whoever you are, it's unlikely that you won't have been impacted in some way by the grief of these times. And I wonder what you're doing with your grief. The danger for many in our world, of course, is that we'll do anything to run from our painful feelings. We're experts at finding ways to divert ourselves, whether that be through comfort eating or through drinking or through box sets or whatever it might be. The problem, of course, is that when we find ways to run from our pain or be distracted from it and we don't make the time to mourn, is that the pain just remains deep inside us. Running from our pain doesn't ultimately help. And Jesus knew that when he said, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted." It's so important that we allow ourselves time to mourn. In ancient cultures, of course, they were much better at it than we are in our culture. They would tear their clothes, they would put ashes on their heads, they would sit in the dirt and lament, raising their voices in agony. And yet we don't tend to do things like that anymore. Probably not unlike you, I'm a master at finding ways to escape my pain. But I do know that it's important that I don't do that. I know it's important that I allow time to grieve. And so sometimes what I do is I listen to music that for me brings some of my painful emotions to the surface. I wonder what it might be for you that helps you to get in touch with some of your pain. That might not be music, it might be something else. But it might be worth thinking about what it might be. How can you intentionally make space to weep, to grieve, to lament before God? You might need to shout at him, you might need to cry before him, but it's important that we all find ways to do it. So what is it at the moment that breaks your heart? It might be personal grief, or it might be grief that you feel on behalf of those in our world and our country. But what is it that makes you weep? I encourage you not to run away from lament, but to come before God and to mourn, knowing that God weeps and mourns with us, and knowing that when we come and we lament and we grieve, we will also come to know God's comfort. But there's something slightly paradoxical almost, that to know God's comfort we have to face the pain. And of course the encouragement is that we face the pain with him and he grieves with us. We're not in it on our own. What makes you weep? I encourage you to weep before your God and to wait for his comfort. Amen.